Hello everyone, I am Denny Ben, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. In this session, we are going to discuss on the topic Statistical Investigation from the subject Principles of Statistics. Statistics is a very common subject for all the streams of undergraduate students. In today's topic, we will try to cover the concept of statistical investigation, need of statistical investigation, and the procedure for conducting a statistical investigation. First, let's know what is statistical investigation. It's a scientific and systematic process of collecting data and analyzing it using various statistical tools for solving a particular problem of making decisions with specific purpose. Statistical investigation is a planned activity where a careful search needs to be done in order to discover the facts. Itself makes it clear that whenever there is any problem or need of making a decision using scientific technique with quantitative data, statistical investigation can be done. When we discuss about the need and purpose of statistical investigation, the ultimate goal of conducting a statistical investigation is to learn more about the real world situation or to expand the contextual knowledge. Here, we can divide the need of statistical investigation into two major categories: reactive approach and the proactive approach. Reactive approach is all about finding the root cause of any problem, like if there is a market complaint regarding any product or one needs to identify the reason for out of the specification results or deviations. Investigations done to know the reason of machine breakdown or any out of the trend drift taken place in the market. Proactive approach is for enhancing the understanding of knowledge towards any product, process or system. Here, we can say that if anyone wants to know more or explore about something, this proactive approach is followed. Now, before we start understanding the process of conducting statistical investigation, we should understand few basic things. For the conduction of any statistical investigation, one basic need is collection of data. To understand the process of collection of data, we need to understand the types of data available also. Data is mainly categorized as primary data and the secondary data. Primary data is the data which is collected by the investigator directly with his own primary objectives, whereas secondary data is the data which is collected by someone else in a different frame of time with some other different primary objectives. But as the objectives are almost similar, one can use those database as secondary data. Let us take an example. If we want to conduct an investigation to know about the customer needs for a new mobile phone, we can ask them directly through interview, making a set of relevant questions, or we can also collect the data from internet where someone else already conducted a similar kind of investigation in the past and published it. Here, when we collect the data directly from the user in present frame of time on the basis of our own primary objectives, then this data will be called as primary data, whereas if we collect it from internet or some other published source which is collected by someone else for their own requirement, we can call it as secondary data. Once we decide to use the primary data for investigation, we need to select the method by which we are going to collect the data. Here, there are two important methods of collecting the data, either by census or by sampling. Now, what is this census and sampling? To understand about census and sampling, we need to know what is population. Population may be referred to the entire group of people for which the investigation is conducted. Another important thing that we should know about the population is that population is of two types, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous. When all the members or elements of the population are exactly similar, we call it as homogeneous population, and if they have differences, then we call it as heterogeneous population. When a part of population is taken under the investigation as a representative of the whole population, then it is called sampling, whereas when the whole population is taken under consideration or study, it is called census. For example, if we want to conduct a statistical investigation to know about the needs and requirements of library book of the BSS college students, to conduct this investigation, we can collect data from each student of our college, that is called as census, or otherwise if we have time limitation, we can select few group of students from various departments or classes, and when we are collecting that data from them, that is called as sampling. Sampling is highly logical and scientific technique, as we need to collect the data from a small representative group for the whole population. We need to be very careful while collecting the data through sampling techniques. There are mainly two methods of sampling: probability sampling, in which all the participants or elements will get equal opportunity to be a part of it, and non-probability sampling, in which there is a biasness or a predefined system for selecting the samples. In probability sampling, we are going to discuss four important methods of sampling, that is random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling and cluster sampling. Let us begin with random sampling. When each member or unit of the sample will get an equal opportunity to be a part of the investigation, then we call it as simple random sampling. For example, when a teacher in a classroom asks a question, he may ask randomly to any of the student without any definite preference. Then each student will be having an equal chance to be selected for giving an answer. Second, in systematic random sampling, as you can see here, individuals are selected at a regular interval for the sampling frame. Here, every third person is being selected from a heterogeneous group of sample. In stratified sampling, small homogeneous groups called stratas are formed from a large heterogeneous population, and then the sample is collected from each strata or homogeneous group. Next is cluster sampling. It is similar to stratified sampling. The only difference is randomly selected subgroups or clusters are used as sample units. Here, heterogeneous groups are made into clusters, and in the same pattern the selection will be done. Next, move on to non-random sampling. There are four major methods we are going to learn here: snowball sampling, quota sampling, judgment sampling and convenience sampling. In snowball sampling, existing members are asked to nominate further new members so that the sample can increase in size like a rolling snowball. This method is mostly used when the samples are hidden. For example, if we want to collect the data for drug addicts, it is not possible to get each and every one. To trace them, we can ask one member to nominate the other so that we can increase the size of sample from those nominations. The next one is quota sampling, where a specific quota will be provided by the interviewer for maintaining the proportionality of representation. For example, in a population of 50 males and 20 females, interviewer may give quota of 5 female so that in a sample of 15 members, even if it is random, the participation of female should not be less. The next one is judgment sampling. In this technique, participants are selected on the basis of researcher's judgment. It is basically used when the researcher knows its population very well and can identify the best samples out of it according to his need. Last one is the convenience sampling, where the participants are selected on the basis of their availability and willingness. After understanding the basic concepts and terminologies, let's start with understanding or learning the process of conducting the statistical investigation. Statistical investigations are carried out when there is a requirement like finding a solution for any specific problem or to make a decision. Different books and authors have suggested various stages of statistical investigation and its process. Here, we are going to consider 6 main stages. The main steps for conducting the statistical investigation are planning the investigation, collecting the data, preparing a questionnaire, organizing the data so that statistical tools can be used properly, analyzing the data with proper scientific and statistical tools, and finally interpreting the data for getting the solution. For understanding this process, we have Mr. Sam, Managing Director, Sigma Automobiles, a car manufacturing company with us. One day, he found that the monthly sales of the organization is moving down from last many months. So, he decided to conduct a statistical investigation to know about the reasons behind it. He started the process by planning the investigation. He made a roadmap. In this step, one needs to identify and define the problem in a structured form so that everyone can understand it conveniently. In this stage, we design a roadmap that how we are going to proceed for the investigation process. Mr. Sam also tried to identify and define the problem, and he found that the sales of the car are substantially moving down over a period of last 4 months. He tried to analyze the environmental factors like change in customer preferences and needs, competitors' strategies, price of the product and the product itself, and he found that there is no issue with these factors as they are unchanged. Mr. Sam decided to collect the data through sampling technique for identifying the specific reason for this decrease in sale. We have already discussed about the various sampling techniques that we have. Here, Mr. Sam decided for a random sampling technique for understanding the problem from the salespeople and the retailers from all the states. As the conditions of each state is different, the population was highly heterogeneous, so Mr. Sam has decided to adopt this method. For this primary data collection, an ideal questionnaire needs to be made with proper number of questions which are easy and simple in language with proper sequence of questions. So, Mr. Sam has made 5 objective type questions based on functional attributes of the salesperson. His objective was to know the root cause of the low sales. Therefore, he collected the data from 50 salesperson from a population of 200 sales employee in random. The questionnaire prepared by Mr. Sam was objective type so that the respondents feel convenient to give their proper response. Once the data was collected, now it is time to organize the data. So, Mr. Sam decided to tabulate the data in proper rows and column form so that he can classify the data in the correct manner. There are various tools of analyzing the data such as arithmetic mean, mode, median, standard deviation, correlation, regression, time series, index number and so on, that we will discuss in our next sessions. Here, for understanding the process adopted by Mr. Sam, he used simple average technique, where he collected the sample data and arranged them in a proper manner and calculated the mean. After the final analysis, interpretation needs to be drawn. After the complete analysis, Mr. Sam found that for the employees, it is difficult to explain the benefits and the features of the new product to the customer that leads to these problem of going sale down. Understanding this issue, Mr. Sam decided to provide a proper training to the salespeople so that whenever a new product comes, they would be able to describe it well. In this case, statistical analysis helped the system to take the best possible decision from a well-defined quantitative database. Jim Frost said, when analysts use statistical procedures correctly, they tend to produce accurate results. In fact, statistical investigation account for uncertainty and errors in the results. Statisticians ensure that all aspects of the study follow the appropriate method to produce trustworthy results. This statement itself from Jim Frost defines the importance of the statistical investigation, that how it leads to the accuracy, how it reduces the uncertainty and errors, and how a trustworthy result can be made by using appropriate statistical tools. That is all about statistical investigation. In our next session, we will discuss the various techniques that can be used for analysis of data. Stay well. Thank you.